Great. All right. Welcome, everybody. And we're recording. We're on the way. And welcome, everybody, to the Small Business Mastermind Foundation webinar on niche markets. A fun business has a clear niche and dominates it. So this is what today's webinar is going to look like. First of all, I'm going to give you a whole heap of stuff, as much as I can cram into your brains in the time we have. So hang on for the ride. And, this is another one of my favorite topics, and I can go on about it for hours and hours and hours. So stop me when it gets boring. And in a moment, I'll tell you what you can expect during the session and what we'll cover. But, just so you know, I'm not going to sell anything to you. I'm just going to cram your head full of food for thought, and then I'll give you some information on how you can take a couple of extra really simple next steps forward with that food for thought if you want. So we're recording the session, so you'll get access to the recording afterwards as well. That'll happen tomorrow somewhere. General comment before we go on, and welcome for those of you who just jumped on. General comment before we go on, it's been proven time again that passively sitting and listening to someone just talking means that you're going to forget 90% of what you've heard in less than a week. And so if you want to get as much return on your investment of time of being on this webinar, you need to participate. And the best way to ensure that you participate and that you're focused is by working through the set of worksheets that are part of the webinar. And so for those of you who haven't done so yet, top left-hand side of your screen, you see a link. You follow that link, that'll take you to the webinar worksheet that you can download as a PDF. You can download and print out, and then you can, if you haven't done so, do so now. So go and download the worksheet if you can now. So please follow along with what I'm talking about on your worksheet. If you get lost, put up your hand via that My Mood button at the top there. But above all, ask questions via the chat window or via putting up your hand. All of you are on mute, but if necessary, I can take you guys off mute. But I'll do that only if it's really useful, because there's always a problem with the technology when we start having live discussions. So if you have a question, I'd love to hear about it, especially via the chat window. And if it looks useful, we can open the line to you. So. And put up your hand via the My Mood button if you want. Don't do any of this. If you're going to get distracted by Facebook, by LinkedIn, by Twitter, by email, text messages, etc., just turn it all off. Don't think you can be focused on Facebook and get value from this workshop all at the same time. It ain't going to happen. Not even for the women, Kathy. Honestly, you will not be able to multitask. I promise you that you can't, Kathy. Multitasking is a myth, all of you. This is our agenda. We're going to check in where you are around this topic. We're going to be talking about managing by crossing your fingers. Then we're going to be talking about why competing on price is a dog's game. The 3 questions about people, and then the 3 questions about your niche. 3 questions about people and 3 questions about your niche. We're going to talk about why differentiating yourself is so important and what it actually means. We're going to go through a whole bunch of examples of differentiation. One of my famous business bedtime stories. Then a story of my own about myself. And then we're going to recap with a bunch of lessons and insights and learnings from all the different examples and everything that I've been chuffing on and you guys might have asked about. Then I'll give you that information about how you can take the next step with all the stuff that I've crammed into your head if you want to. And then finally, we're going to get into some action, because nothing happens unless we take action, right? So any questions, please ask. For those of you who haven't met me yet, that's me. Honestly, I truly am that handsome. And that's me. I'm Roland Hanekroot. I'm a business coach and mentor, and I help small business owners become less daunted and less overwhelmed in their lives as business owners, and instead to have fun in their business, again, and to build businesses that sustain them for years to come. And I'm the author of a series of business books for small business owners, the 10 Truths books for business owners. So this evening's Small Business Mastermind Foundation webinar is actually about truth number 7 from my second book. Great growth companies or fun businesses have a clear niche and they dominate it. That's what we're talking about tonight. And this is what I want you to take away from attending the workshop. I want you to all walk away enthusiastic and with at least one action that you're committed to taking in your business around finding a clear niche and how to work it. And I want you to all leave with a greater appreciation about how important it is to be great at what you do, as well as to be great at running your business. Because a lot of business owners like us are great tradespeople or professionals, and we know a lot about our professional trade, but to be a great small business owner and to build a fun business that sustains you for years to come, you have to have a solid understanding of all the key aspects of developing your business, not just your profession or trade. Just quickly, there's a couple of people that joined in, and welcome. For those of you who just joined in and haven't heard me say this before, at the top left hand of your screen, you see a link to the Mastermind webinar worksheets. Please, if you haven't done so already, please go and download them. Follow the link, download them, print them out if you can. You will get a lot more from the webinar. So you've got to have a solid understanding of all the key aspects of developing your business, not just your profession or trade. And these are the 10 key areas that we have to get our head around. Vision, planning, numbers or control systems, money, financial management, predictability or management or rhythms, systems, customers, marketing and sales, innovation, quality assurance, continuous improvement. That's all part of what I call innovation. People and leadership. And it's just too much to focus on, right? It's overwhelming and it's daunting and it's simply doing your head in, right? So before we go on, go to your worksheet if you can. And on the 3rd page of your worksheet, you'll see a question with some space underneath, and then the question is this: right now, this coming month, what is the biggest challenge you face in your business? What is the one thing that keeps you awake most? Just like that girl. Take a moment to write that answer down on your worksheet, and I will give you a minute to think about it, or half a minute. What is the biggest challenge, your biggest, most pressing issue in your business right now? Next, let's have a look at this question. What are your outcomes? Just below the box that you just filled in on page 2, or page 3, whatever it is, page 2 or 3 of your worksheet, about your most pressing issue. There's another box, my outcome for participating today. What do you want to get from being here today? So let's get started. And if you've answered those 2 questions, what is your most pressing issue right now? And what do you want to get from being here? Let's get into it. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to launch a poll. I'm going to ask you all to respond to the question. The questions are on your worksheets as well. Hang on, let me get the poll up. And the question is, when I think of my market, what I feel is, become the questions. When I think of my market, what I feel is, A, frustrated because I don't know where to focus my attention. B, overwhelmed because I'm trying to be everything to everyone. C, I'm confused because one moment I think I've worked out what my niche should be, but I don't want to say no to opportunities that might come my way. I hate saying no. D, all of the above. It just depends on what time of the day you ask me. And E, I'm excited because I know exactly who my narrow target market is, where they live, what they need, what they care about, and how to communicate with them. So please do us a vote. Vote on any of those. Pick one of the 5. Pick one of the 5. See how you're going with that. Another moment. There's not one or two people who haven't quite voted yet, I think. Oh no, we're nearly there now. That's great. All right. There we go. Bang. So it's interesting, right? Most people scored A and C. Actually, A and C. Yeah, A and C. A and C. One person on D, no one on B, and no one on E. Nearly 2/3 on A and a third on C. And look, it's basically the kind of thing that I expect, right? Most small businesses, I'll close that pot. Most small business owners, or prospective business owners, that they have a marketing policy that can best be described as keeping your fingers crossed, right? And it's one of my favorite management techniques, really. Management by keeping your fingers crossed. Just hoping it'll all just come out all right somehow. It'll be all right on the night, as they say. Well, not. You see, the problem is twofold. If you're a large corporate beast, if you're Woolworths and Coles, you can sell your stuff to a large and varied market. Woolworths and Coles direct themselves to families, to singles, to upper and lower income groups, and people in the city as well as in the suburbs. But when you're a small business or a micro business, you simply can't do that. It doesn't work, as they say. If you try to be all things to everyone, you'll end up being nothing to no one. And the second thing is that if you try to operate in a large market, you'll be fighting it out with a lot of competitors, and the only one who enjoys that, of course, is because it means that everyone's going to be cutting their prices all the time. So the bottom line about niche marketing is this, that competing on price is a dog's game. Competing on price is a dog's game, because competing on price means stress. It means sleepless nights and low margins. Nobody wants to compete on price because there's always someone who will do it cheaper. And it plays havoc with your margins. And the best way to avoid having to compete on price is to have a really tightly defined niche. Ideally a niche that you can have all to yourself and that you can dominate. A niche that you can own. And so that's the purpose of this webinar. How can we go about finding a narrowly defined niche market that we become the specialist in, so that we do not have to solely compete on price anymore? Let's talk about the 3 key aspects. And there's three questions, really. The 3 questions are about people, and so it's 3 questions about people, and this is what they are. Who are the people that, who should have been first? I've got waffling there. Anyway, who are the people that make up our market? What problem do we solve for people? What's the biggest problem that we solve for those people better than anyone else? And where are those people? And, some of you are thinking, oh, that's all very well for someone who's about to start a business from scratch, but I've been operating my business for a while, so I already have a market by definition, right? Because I've been selling stuff already, right? And that's true, of course. That's true, of course. I mean, most of us find ourselves in a market by accident. We've either taken an existing business over from a previous owner, or we've started our business doing something that we happen to be particularly good at, and hence we've already had a couple of clients and a market from day one. And so we roll along doing more or less what we've always done. And our recipe for success, our recipes for success is our belief in ourselves and a vague notion that we'll be able to do it better than the other guys somehow. And there you have those crossed fingers again. From day to day, we keep our fingers crossed that the phone's going to keep ringing, and we say yes to every inquiry that comes in the door because, you can't really say no to any possible sale, right? A sale's a sale's a sale. And the situation is equally applicable to someone with a carpentry business or a property broking business, a property management business, or a mortgage broker, or a cafe, or an optometrist, or a carpenter, or an architect. And when you ask us what we do and for who we do it and what makes us special and interesting to our market, we say three things. We give great customer service, and we deliver a great product at a great price. Recognize that? Recognize you saying something like that in some variations? Great product, great price, great customer service. That's what's so good about us. In essence, it's just that, in essence, that's probably what you would say if I asked you what makes your business special or great, would it? Probably. I suspect it is in some variation because most of us think about business that way. But stop. Think about it. Great products, great price, great customer service isn't much of a differentiator, really, is it? Stop saying that. Because it's not much of a differentiator for two reasons. First, those three statements, great product, great price, great service, are not special enough. They don't offer enough value. Customers expect good service, good quality, and good price from everyone. They're only talking to you because they believe that you will be able to offer that to them, that you will offer those to them. And what's even more important or annoying is that your competitors offer exactly the same thing. Otherwise, your customers wouldn't be talking to them either. If your competitors didn't offer those three, good products, great product, great price, great service, they wouldn't be your competitors. The simple fact that they are your competitors means that they offer those three. I mean, ask yourself: is there anybody on this call? I'd love you to put up your thumb. If there is anyone on this call who offers an average product with an average price with average customer service. Not seeing any thumbs up here. Of course not. Nobody does, right? We don't, and nor does your competition. And if you and your competitors make the same promise to the same customer, the customer will make a decision on price because it's the only factor that they can differentiate you and your competitors on easily. See, everything else is in the quality of a product is difficult to compare, and they can't see it until the end. But if something is $10 or $9, it's easy to compare for the customer, theoretically. And so we're competing on price again, and that's what we all want to stay well and truly away from, right? In small business, there's nothing worse than being forced to compete on price because there's always someone who's prepared to do it cheaper. You cannot build a long-term, sustainable, small business based around being the cheapest. You just can't. Don't get me wrong. We've all been there. I was thinking about this myself the other day in relation to my own business, but I'll get back to that a bit further on. But it's one of those issues that keeps raising its head, and it'll do so probably until the day we die or we sell the business or whichever comes first. It's one of those perennial questions of business. You have to constantly ask yourself, am I making a clearly defined promise to a clearly defined market? A niche. It's the basis of all marketing. What promise do we make to which specific group of customers and better than anyone else? And so we're going to delve a bit deeper into that question. Who is that specific group of customers? There you go, bacon donuts. To avoid having to compete on price alone, we want to find a small niche market that we have a great product or service for, in which there are few, if any, competitors. If we find such a niche, we can set out to dominate it, and we can dominate. And dominating a niche is a recipe for building a long-term sustainable business. How's that for having a niche? Bitey funerals. There wouldn't be a lot of them. So how do we go about finding such a niche? And that gets us to the second set of 3 questions. And those 3 questions are, who does not currently use my product or service but might? I think those 3 questions are on your worksheet. If not at the page that you're on now, they'll be on the second last page. But who does not currently use my product or service but might? What are all the factors that we and all our competitors already compete on with each other? On which factors are none of us competing? So let's talk through a couple of real-world examples to illustrate how you might change your thinking about your market, about finding a niche and about dominating it. The first story illustrates the question, who doesn't currently use my product or service but might? And that's the story about, real stories, by the way. So let's assume that you own a carpet cleaning business and your area has heaps of carpet cleaners, and they all offer more or less the same thing, so that 75% of the inquiries you get from prospective new clients revolve around the question, how much do you charge per room? The question drives you mad because you're only just making ends meet as it is, and having to be the cheapest all the time just isn't viable. One day you decide something has to change, and together with your wife you start to have a look through your database of clients and jobs from the last 3 years. You're not sure exactly what you're looking for yet, but you hope to find a specific category of client or job that is either more profitable than the rest, or more fun to do, or easier, or all of the above. After an exhaustive search over many evenings, your wife mentions that she's come across a few big 21st birthday party cleanups, and an idea starts to form. An idea starts to form. Remember those parties? That looks bad, that one. So you decide to create a special offering and expertise in preparation and cleanup before and after big parties, especially 18th and 21st, because they can be messy affairs and a lot of anxiety goes along with them. How about offering a package that includes preparing the carpets for a big party with a protective spray application, and then coming back the day after the party to do a thorough clean-up to make the house smell like new again? A special package like this is actually not offered by anyone in your area, and it addresses a great need. And John and Mary's Party Cleaning is born, a unique product and offering at a price level that you can make good profits on, and best of all, prospective customers cannot compete on price because no one else actually offers the same packaged service. And your carpet cleaning business in your life will never be the same again, I promise you. Now, before we go on to the next 2 key questions, anybody got any questions about this so far? Speak up if you want. I've actually had a question a moment ago from Kate in Newcastle, and Kate said, nice idea about the carpet cleaning business, but the market would never be big enough to build a business on that, would it? And so it's a great point, Kate. So let me make a couple of comments. First of all, I think you'd be surprised how many of these 21st birthday parties there actually are in a city like Sydney. Or even a city like Newcastle, especially if you think of Newcastle as the central focus of the whole of the Hunter Valley, right? But I suppose the problem with a business such as this in Sydney or Newcastle might be that most people would organise their 21st birthday parties in the backyard. So for exactly the reason that they don't want the house trashed in Sydney, of course, the weather's usually pretty favourable. So maybe it's worth considering in Hobart more. But really, to be honest, I actually didn't make up the example. I actually came across this exact business a while ago on a website in Canada. Now, I don't know if they made their whole business about the party cleaning or if maybe it was just one of their sidelines, but one thing I can assure you of is it'd be really profitable for them. But it's a story that illustrates the point. There are heaps and heaps of carpet cleaners out there. If you don't want to have to compete on price, you know, how much per room, find something special and different to make your niche out of. Does that answer the question, Kate? Any other questions at this point? Thank you, Kat. Yep, cool. Right, moving on. The other two niche questions, and I've got some illustrations for those. But the other two niche questions are, hang on, let me just make sure I get back to them. The first niche question, who's not currently used my product or service but might? The second one was, what are all the factors that we and our competitors already compete on with each other? And the third one is, on which factors are none of us competing? So imagine this. It's another real-world example. Imagine that you own a bicycle store in a big city like Sydney. Yeah, selling bicycles is a tough game. It is. Competition from other retailers is fierce, and the big box retailers, so it's just Big W and Kmart and whatever they are in other parts of the world, Walmart and stuff, they're muscling in, and the internet's increasingly impacting traditional retail models all over the place as well. One day, you realize that there's effectively no difference between the bikes, the pumps, and the bike shoes that you sell and the ones that are sold by your competitors. You and your competitors are all fishing in the same pool, trying to catch exactly the same fish with the same bait. The only way forward is to create a new pond and attract enough of the fish away from the old pond to be able to enjoy the fishing again. So you set about changing your approach to business completely. First, you look closely at all the factors you and your competitors fight over, like price, range, convenience, friendly service, speed of delivery, connection with major sporting heroes, etc., etc., etc. And then you look at what other factors there are that nobody competes on yet. And this leads you to the insight that the greatest opportunity for your business lies in creating long-term customer loyalty through delivering truly out-of-the-box, extraordinary service and absolute peace of mind. So, for example, you decide to offer a lifetime free flat tire repair. And you offer a no questions asked replacement guarantee for any bikes and products sold if the customer is dissatisfied with the product for whatever reason. You teach your staff that from now on the word no is no longer going to be spoken inside the shop. Now, what happens is that you suddenly start attracting people to your store who just want to see with their own eyes what they've heard is true. Nobody's ever offered a lifetime free tire repair, for example. People are skeptical and want to see if you're as good as your word. So you have clearly written brochures and policies available for everyone, spelling out the unique promises your store makes. And suddenly, your competition doesn't count anymore. You've created your own fish pond, and the fish are coming to you. How do you like them apples? Now, in case you think I made this up, this is an exact case. There's a whole book about this business. There's websites. It's a very famous case. There's actually a number of businesses that do very similar things, but there's a particular bike store in America that does exactly this. It's incredibly successful. It's called Zane Cycles, and it's owned by a guy called Chris Zane, who does exactly what I just described, and his store is amazingly successful. Because, the retail model in 2013 is fundamentally changed from even a few years ago. And what worked 10 or even 5 years ago simply doesn't work anymore. I know plenty of retailers are pulling their hair out because customers are only using their shops as showrooms for the stuff that they go and buy online. Yeah, I actually had a bike shop customer as a customer for a while, bike shop owner. And he used to say people have come and check out his stuff, brake pads or whatever on the store, and they'd go and buy them online and then bring them back into the store and say, can you fit them for me? It was truly going spare, but that's how someone like Chris Zane dealt with it. And that's what, the famous Zappos, they're doing exactly the same kind of thing. And there's many businesses like that. Look, it's happening all over the place. If you want to build a sustainable business around a retail model, you simply have to find unique offerings that add extra value to the products that you want to be selling. I actually think that in the speed, mobile, internet connections, there's little room for the traditional retail models anymore. We can't hold back the tide. So there's another example of how to define your target market. And now it's time for one of my business bedtime stories. I'm just going to have a sip of tea because my mouth is drying out. Any questions at this stage? Please put up your hand or type in. Otherwise, I'm going to go to the bedtime story. And it's the story of Annette and her catering business. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago in a country not unlike Australia, I had a client called Annette who had a catering business. Just like that, except she didn't have a beard. Catering is a crowded market, right? Anybody who's ever cooked a nice dinner party or watched MasterChef, those guys, has fantasized about starting a catering business of some sort, and Annette was forever fighting off new competitors and finding it hard to grow and develop her business. And one of Annette's regular clients was an event organizer who put on a lot of corporate conferences and seminars, and Annette was supplied to catering for a number of these clients' events, but she was always pressured to cut her margins as competitors tried to muscle in on her territory. Annette needed a differentiator, and she needed it now. One day, she and her husband were talking about hosting a dinner party for their own friends at home to celebrate 5 years of Annette's business, and while brainstorming over how to put the party together, Annette mentioned how much she'd always enjoyed preparing food together with friends as well as eating it. And as those words came out of her mouth, a light just switched on in her brain. Annette suddenly saw how she could offer a special type of entertaining combined with catering and team building activity for conferences, workshops, retreats, and conference participants would work with qualified chefs to prepare their own meals and then eat them together. The next day, Annette rang her friend and put the concept to her, and 2 months later, Annette and her friend ran the first team cooking event for dinner at a 2-day corporate retreat with 100 participants. And Annette and her team had a ball putting aprons on delegates and teaching them how to cook properly, and the response and the feedback from clients was phenomenal. And then Annette's conference cook-off was born that week and took off like a rocket. And very soon Annette was running these events all over the country, competing with a constant stream of newcomers in the event catering industry, because it became an issue of the past. And Annette has since launched a similar offering aimed at private parties and gatherings as well. So next time you want to host a dinner party with a difference, look her up. And Annette and thousands of conference delegates ate well and lived happily ever after. The end. Nice story, right? It's a true story, absolutely. Might not be called a net, but besides that, that's the only thing that I made up. There are a few lessons in the story, but not least that it can take a while before you hit upon the idea that will make a difference. That's what it can take a while. And that such an insight, like the one in that head, can come at the most unexpected moment out of left field. But that you'll recognize it when it comes, because it will feel just like Annette described it. Clonk, light turning on. So what's come up for you from everything that you've heard me talk about? The 2 example stories, the bedtime story, the principles, the questions. Please type in your questions now. What are the top 3 insights? The top 3 insights or learnings you've got from this workshop, this webinar so far. Maybe you've got maybe you've got more questions than insights. What are your top questions? Please go ahead and write them down now on your worksheet. And I'm going to give you a minute to write before I go on. Now, I'd really love to hear some of those insights and questions. If anybody has some that would be happy to share, please type them into the chat window there. And or if you want to come off mute, happy to give that a go. Just put up your hand and I can take you off mute if you'd like to give me your insights to share, to talk about it. So let me give you my insights. These are the bullet points. So first of all, I'll remind you that we talked about the fact that it is no longer good enough to say that you deliver great customer service with great quality and a great product and a great price, because everybody says that. Customers expect those three as the minimum, and if that's all you can offer, you'll spend your whole life being squeezed on profit margins. And being squeezed on profit margins, as in competing on price, sucks. The most effective, the third thing, the most effective approach to building a long-term sustainable business, a fun business that sustains you for years to come, is to find a really narrow niche, and create the opportunity to dominate that niche. As you heard from Annette, the answer to how you can find a niche can come at the most unexpected moments and out of nowhere. And a profitable niche can be really narrow, as somebody said, an inch wide, a mile deep. And you've had some examples of some very narrow niches already. So there are a couple of bits of feedback that have come up that I've got from people. One is from Jim in Sydney, yes. Jim says he'd love to get Annette's contact details because he wants to do one of her dinner parties. And yes, they're fun. If you send me an email, then I'll send you her details. Alicia in Sydney says, what if you can't think of a special niche? That's a great question, Alicia. Yes, sometimes it can be, it can be difficult, and in some cases there simply isn't a market for your product or your service either, right? I mean, if your business is selling advertising in the yellow pages, you're going to be struggling, right? Because people just don't use the yellow pages anymore for anything else but opening the door. So sometimes you may have to rethink a lot more than just your market. You may also have to rethink your product or your service. But the process is always going to be about the interplay of a market and a promise and how you can make money from that interplay. But I suppose what I'm saying, Alicia, is I don't want you to give up. I would encourage you to not give up easily. It took Annette, several years before she came up with that special conference cook-off package. It's really it didn't come out of it wasn't just an easy thing, snap your fingers. It's worth really digging in and brainstorming and talking about it with people and exploring and experimenting. So Jim, send me that email and I'll introduce you. And Alicia, I hope that's question. But don't give up. Keep looking. Keep asking yourself what opportunities you can see on the horizon. You'll be surprised where the answer might actually come from. So let me tell you another brief story, but this is my own story about niche marketing. Because I've struggled just as much as anybody else to find exactly what I do. There is and what I do and who I do it for and what the problem is that I solve for those people. It actually also took me years. And because there's so many people around these days who call themselves business coaches. I sometimes joke that if I had a dog, I'd probably call him a business coach. But business coach has become the term that anybody wants to use for some reason. I've met accountants and psychologists who started calling themselves business coaches. So for me, it was a pretty slow process and quite gradual. It's like I was going around and around in a spiral and getting closer and closer. And I tried all kinds of different niches. This is the best one. In my early coaching days, I happened to coach a friend for free, actually. I mean, it's just a thing I did. A friend of mine who was getting married. And through the whole process of getting married, I was coaching her. And then I thought, and it was great fun. And she had a lot of fun at the wedding, and it was all good, right? So, but but I started to think, wow, maybe that's what my niche should be. I even had flyer design and printing, wedding coaching. Needless to say, it didn't take off. I wonder if it had something to do with my person. Anyway, but over the years, I started getting closer and closer to what I really am passionate about, and what I do better than anybody else, and for who I do that better than anyone else. And so my niche has become defined, and I'm going to tell you how it's defined. Now, it's not easily defined. It's not in one simple statement. There's a number of statements together that define my niche. So the first statement is that I only work with small business owners, and I only work with the owner, a single owner, not a team or a partnership or a business, a whole business. I work with one person. For me, it's about supporting people who want to make something happen in a short, defined period of time, 6 to 12 months, no more, but no less either. So really, if people want to have just 1 or 2 coaching sessions with me, I sort of try and avoid it, because it's not really what I'm good at. It's only about supporting people who started their business because they're so good at what they do. So it's people who are subject matter experts, people that are particularly good tradespeople, particularly good professionals, and they started their business because they are. And it's not about people who bought a business or a franchise or who are importing stuff, generally speaking. And most importantly, it's about helping small business owners out of overwhelm and stress and into feeling great, proud, excited about themselves and their business by making business fun and building business that's sustainable for years to come. And that's the definition of my niche, as well as the purpose of my business. Now, that's a lot of definition, and it's not a simple niche. I support women between, a lovely simple niche would be, I support women between 35 and 45 who want to change their career. I wish my niche was that simply defined, but it isn't. But it's nevertheless clear though. I know exactly who I'm talking to and who I'm not talking to. I know how to market myself and how to define what I do as different to anyone else. And when I finally found that clarity about 2 years ago, my life and my business changed forever. So that's my story. And Kate made another comment. That was great. Thanks again. And Kate said, thanks for explaining that. Great to know that it doesn't always have to be simple. Because I take it that it's not simple for you, Kate. Yeah, well, that's true. It's exactly true, Kate. And that goes for Alicia before as well. It's not always simple and easy. It's not one of those things I can go on about forever, but I won't. But except this, the whole point of business and small business is that it's as unique as the people that it is built on. And so there is no one-size-fits-all answer to just about anything in your business. None. Don't let anyone tell you that there is. If they try and tell you that there is, slap them, because there simply isn't a one-size-fits-all answer to any problem or issue or challenge in your business. So, thanks for all those questions and comments. Feel free to email me at help@just.com.au if you have other questions down the line. Time to move on now. At the moment, I'm going to make a series of suggested actions and steps that we'll get to. But before we go there, remember, it's all too much to focus on all those hundreds of business development priorities. It's just too much. It's just too much. It's doing your head in. So I mentioned before that I'm going to give you some information about how you can take a couple of really effective next steps with all the stuff that I've talked about, and to help you move out of feeling overwhelmed and not knowing where to focus next and how to move forward. So I told you that my purpose and my niche is to help small business owners out of overwhelm and feeling it's all too much. And so I want to give you a couple of things that will make business more fun for you and help you start to move out of that overwhelm. All right? So remember, I asked you to focus and write down your most pressing issue. The poor woman with the sandwich. Your most pressing issue. Talk about the biggest challenge in your business now. So have another look at that most pressing issue. Is it still your most pressing issue, or has something else come up for you by then? So just check in with yourself on that if you can. Here's the deal. This is what I want to give you. Carry out a really powerful business health check and you will get a simple and easy to understand written report on the state of health of your business in 10 different key aspects of your business. So it's a business health check with a 7-page report, on the state of health of your business across 10 different key aspects. So you're going to get a hard copy of my first book, The 10 Truths for Raising a Healthy, Bounty Business, or if you already own a hard copy of my first book, then you will get a copy of my third book when it comes out within the next month. Then you're going to get to sit down with me for an hour, face-to-face or via video link, one-on-one, and gain great clarity and insight about where you are now, where you want to get to in your business, and you'll walk away with powerful, renewed focus and discipline, and one or more simple action steps that will start to move you forward past that big pressing issue, the sandwich, and towards having more fun in business. And all you have to do is make a donation of $100 to Wayside Chapel, my favourite charity, the homeless church here in King's Cross, where I live, in Sydney, in Australia. For those of you who are not. So business health check report, copy of the 10 truths, one-on-one coaching session, clarity, next steps, and a whole bunch of things to move forward with, all for no more than $100 donation to the Wayside Chapel. An hour and 75 minutes. The coaching session will be 75 minutes, face-to-face or via Skype. It's truly the most fun and most effective charity donation that you've ever made in your life, and it's the best offer you'll have all year for taking a big step forward to developing your business. So back to the grind. Action. Because nothing's going to happen unless we take action, right? Now, those of you who don't not aware of that, there is a special resources page. I'll just type in the TTP, tiny.cc/market see that link there, tiny.cc market page. You go to that page. It's a web page on my website. It's got all the resources. It's got a video, and it also will have the recording of this webinar on it tomorrow. But you can go there to download the resources. So the next step are these. First of all, I want you need to set some time aside. You need to set some time aside to do something with what you've learned today and the information that I've given you today. If you don't set some time aside in the next few days, then spending an hour on this webinar with me has been a waste of your time. The only thing that ultimately makes any difference is what actions you take, and you can only take actions if you put time aside for them. And so put time aside for them today, tomorrow, Sunday, next week, whatever, but very soon, block time up in your diary. Then go to the resources page that I've given you the link to there. It's always also on your webinar worksheet, tiny.cc market page. Download the article. There's an article on there called Blue Oceans and Empty Swimming Pools, an article by me, which is, if I say so myself, it's a great article, but it's the essence. It's really the essence of a fantastic book about tight niches, and there's a slide share present, and that book is called Blue Oceans and Blue Ocean Strategy: How to Make the Competition Irrelevant. And there's a SlideShare presentation also about Blue Ocean on the resources page, and there is a worksheet by the marketing strategy company called the Find Your Niche worksheet, and they're really powerful things to use. So watch this SlideShare presentation, download the article and read it. Download the Find Your Niche worksheet and work through it. And especially go and talk to people about this. Talk to people, brainstorm, explore, because this is stuff that doesn't just pop out of, you don't just click your fingers like I talked about before. So remember the 3 key questions. The actions, download the article, watch the slide, share presentation, download the Find the Niche worksheet, and complete it. These are the 3 key questions. Who does not currently use my product or service but might? What are all the factors that we and all our competitors already compete on with each other, and on which factors are none of us competing yet? So now, make the time available in your diary to sit down quietly and brainstorm on paper the answer to those 3 questions. And yeah, lastly, of course, I'd really love you to take up the offer. It truly is the best offer. You'll get to take a significant step forward to building a fun business that sustains you for years to come. I promise you. You'll get a mountain of valuable insights, learning, clarity out of the health check from the report, my first book, and the session. And I promise you it's the best deal you've had all year to take a big step forward to having fun in business, making business fun. And the Wayside Chapel is going to love you too. So, any last questions? Ask now, forever hold your peace. If you take nothing else away from this webinar, remind yourself of those 3 questions. Keep asking yourself those questions. Talk about it with friends, mentors, partners, your key people, your spouse, your dog. Keep asking the 3 questions over and over and over, and you will find it, and you will get it. And when you do, your life will change. I promise you. Thanks for your time today and your participation. If you have any other questions, of course, you can email me at help@newperspectives.com.au. There is the link to the Wayside Chapel, thewaysidechapel.com, and then click on the donations tab. Thewaysidechapel.com, donations tab. The details of the offer on your worksheets as well, and then also on that resources page, that link at the top there, tiny.cc market L page. You will get an email tomorrow also with when the recording is up. So you'll be able to find it all again, or you can always email me or call me or whatever. All right, that's all for me. We're going to stop the recording right now.